It is 2024 and things are a-changing. Things already started changing in 2023, but that's just how the world goes, right? Things always are in motion. Things are always changing. However, when it comes to the course creator space, I do have 5 predictions of some big challenges that I think you might have to face in 2024. But don't worry, I do give you the solution and how to overcome it. This is just based off our experience with working with, I don't even know, hundreds, if not thousands of entrepreneurs throughout 2022 and in 2023, not just entrepreneurs, but course creators in general. And so we've just seen a lot of interesting things happening. And I think the world is shifting. The world is changing. There's just a lot of change happening. And I wanted to come on and just talk about some of the challenges that we're seeing in 2023 with course creators, how we've been able to overcome it. And these are all things that I think are going to continue into 2024. And maybe even beyond. So again, don't worry about it too much. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I got to freak out. And these are the things I got to worry about. Brandon's going to tell me all the problems I'm going to have. It's like, no, we're giving you the solutions. What we're doing is saying, be mindful of this might happen, but if you do this, this, and this, you probably won't be affected by it. This is how we've overcome these things. I'm going to give you the solution to every single one. And I'm really excited for this episode. I'm recording this intro after I record the other episode. And I think it is one of the best episodes that I've recorded in a really long time. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this. And hopefully it prepares you and gets you to a place where you're going to thrive in 2024. So let's let it roll. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are going to be talking about the biggest challenges, my predictions for 2024. So my predictions of the biggest challenges that course creators will face in 2024. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this is because I've been noticing trends over the last, 6 months or so, and I think these trends will continue. I've actually been seeing some of these trends for even longer. And just to sort of set the stage, is I don't want this to be an episode where it's like, oh my God, these challenges are coming, I'm going to freak out. Like, I'm not trying to, my intention is not to instill fear or worry or concern. It's more of something just to be mindful of and to take into consideration when doing your marketing, when creating your business. My thought around this is, if you can sort of master these 5 things that we're going to go through, it'll set you up for a really powerful year in 2023. So it's not to instill fear or worry or concern. It's to literally empower you to make changes, to make shifts if you need to. Okay. So some of you might be just doing great and you can just tune this episode out. But again, just to give the context, this does come through working with a ton of students. So I don't know the exact number, but I think in 2023, we've probably brought on anywhere from 400 to 600 students. We've done, probably close to 1,000 sales calls, all with course creators. So especially the sales calls, when we get on sales calls, we can hear like, these are the concerns, these are the worries, these are the problems that they're dealing with. And one of the shifts that we've made in our business in 2023 was developing the NGM Plus program. And one of the things we decided to do in that is add a lot more strategy in business development combined with messaging, which I've never done before. I've never talked about business development. I've never talked about strategy. It was always just messaging. In 2023, we sort of evolved that. And so I've had a really insightful year of just looking into the space and seeing what problems people are dealing with when it comes to strategy, when it comes to business development, when it comes to messaging, when it comes to marketing. Been helping course creators with all of it. And so with that being said, we also kind of know what solutions are working, which ones are not. So we've got to see patterns and things along those lines. And interestingly enough, I've had a huge amount of requests from people to either work one-on-one with me or ask questions around business development. So like how to grow the business, how to scale the business, marketing, setting up teams, setting up structure. And again, it's just like a sign from the universe of like, okay, you're on the right path, Brandon, because you kind of made the shift. And now we just have so many more people coming and asking about it. And again, the reason why I share that is because I just want to give the frame or the context, or just let you know where this information is coming from. It's coming from me stepping into that arena as a teacher and a mentor more this year than I ever have, working with more people. And so with that being said, we've just had a really holistic view of the course creator space, from a messaging angle, from a marketing angle, from an ads angle, from a strategy angle, from an evergreen angle, and from a webinar angle. And so we got to see all of it because we teach and do all of it as well. So this isn't just like, this is what Brandon's experience, not relevant to me. It's like, no, we've had people with one-on-one services, with low ticket, high ticket, evergreen, launching webinars, live challenge, whatever it is, right? We've had people come in all sorts of different niches and industries, and that's where this information is coming from. So with that being said, let's dive in, because I think 2024 is going to be a big year. One of the reasons why it's going to be a big year is because of the election. And so when big shifts and changes are happening like that on a global scale, and yeah, I understand it's the United States, but a lot of people are paying attention to what's happening in the United States. And let's just be honest, let's just call a spade a spade. Let's just call it as it is. It's probably going to be a little controversy, right? There's going to be people with strong opinions, strong beliefs on whoever is elected as president. There already is. And that does affect the energy in the world. And when the energy in the world is affected by that, it's going to have different sort of reactions, or not consequences, but sort of things, I don't know, things that are happening, right? And so there's a lot of shifting and changing happening in 2024. Also, the housing market is been crazy for the last couple of years. I kept telling myself it's got to come down at some point. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, is this thing ever going to come down? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of talk about recession, and honestly, there's been talk about recession, what feels like for 2 years. So there could be a lot of shifting and changing. I don't know. Nobody actually knows. But when there is a lot of change, it causes a lot of things to happen. And we're going to kind of address that throughout this episode. But I want to jump into the first one, because I think there's a couple things happening with a lot of uncertainty in the world, maybe recession talk. Like, we know inflation is crazy, so the dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. You can't buy the same amount of stuff that you used to. Like, we just bought a brand new Yukon because we had one we bought in 2019, and then it didn't have 4-wheel drive, which we need 4-wheel drive for being up here in the snow. And the same car we bought in 2019, the Yukon, it was $55,000. And then we bought the exact same car, just a 2023. The only difference is it had 4-wheel drive. It was $76,000. So in 4 years is a $20,000 jump in the price. And so we've seen a lot of those things happening, right? Like, this isn't my interpretation or belief. That's just literally what the reality is. There's just, inflation is crazy. So there's two things that are going on, right? Inflation is getting a little bit cray-cray, but also at the same time, what that inflation has caused, from my belief, my perspective, is people looking for side income, looking for how to make money online, looking to start their own business. It's caused people to reach out for other ways to make ends meet, to create a better life for their family. And when that happens, there creates oversaturation in the market. Now, there was already oversaturation in the market before that, meaning there's just more and more people becoming aware that there's this industry where I can become an influencer or put content out or become an expert, or I can make money in other ways through books, through courses, through programs, through services. And there's just so many different modalities for people to make money online. And because we have, and again, that awareness was already growing before the inflation thing. So there were more and more competitors coming in. It's becoming a big space. I've been in the space for 12 years. This is obviously the most competitive and oversaturated it has ever been in the history of courses and online. Now, when we add, the problem with inflation and people wanting a better life for their family, and I think the other factor in this is people, maybe are working from home so they can travel more. Like, even for me, I'm like, I just want to be able to like get up and go. I want to be able to, maybe not be stuck so much and do this and travel more. And so there's this lifestyle that I think people are accustomed to since becoming accustomed to since COVID, where they're like, I don't have to be stuck here. I can kind of move around and do what I want. It just creates more demand for people to want to be in this industry. And I hate to say it, but if you are already struggling to get and it's been a while, to get your business off the ground, to stand out, to create sales, to create content, it's not going to get any easier unless you actually change something. And so I think the biggest challenge in 2024, because of all this stuff, is that it's going to be more competitive. Again, this doesn't mean my intention is not to instill fear and worry. It's something to like, okay, I got it. It's gonna be more competitive. I got to step up my game. Or change something or do something differently, right? If you're sitting there going like, I'll break through one day and you've been doing the same thing for 6 months and there's no change. It's like, look, it's going to get more competitive. It's time to change something up and see. I'm a big believer that if we just change something, we do something different, we try more things, trial and error a little bit more, we'll eventually find the thing that breaks us through, right? So here's how I recommend my students to overcome the oversaturation. I think a lot of people get stuck in this idea that I need to niche down, or I need to have something so unique that it's so different than everyone else. And, although there's truth in that, and I actually teach that, I think that everyone should have their own unique solution and process and stuff like that. However, with that being said, I don't think being unique for the intention of being unique and different is what's going to set you apart. It's being unique and different, having a unique solution that literally is just better than anything that actually exists. It's finding new ways to do things, better ways to do things, number one. But number two is in your marketing, in your messaging, we don't want to talk about the solution too much up front. What we really want to do is we want to work on the way in which we communicate. And the way in which we communicate shifts and changes a lot. So to give you guys an example, like I teach messaging, I teach communications. Probably why a lot of you guys are here on the podcast listening is because you're like, oh, I want to learn messaging from Brandon. Maybe some of you guys are here for strategy, or you like me, or you like my philosophy on life, or whatever it may be, right? But the core of it, the idea is that it's not necessarily, let's put it this way. I'm not the only person teaching messaging. I'm not the only person teaching communication. I'm not the only person teaching what I teach. However, how I talk about those things is completely different. How I communicate about messaging is different. The stories that I use, the metaphors that I use, the dots that I connect for you, the realizations you didn't have before, all of those make a difference in how people perceive you. And what happens is when I can connect dots that aren't connected for you, when I can make you aware of realizations that you didn't realize before, when I can teach in ways that no one has taught you stuff, right? So becoming a better teacher also has allowed me to stand out. What starts to happen is the audience comes to their own conclusion that this person is different. Yes, I want to learn messaging, but this is the person. Yeah, I actually don't even know what their process is really, but I just know the ahas, the mind-blowing moments, the clarity that I get from this person is different than everyone else. Therefore, that person puts you in their own box in their head that this person is different. This person can help me. Okay. So overcoming oversaturation. Yes, we want something unique. Yes, we want something different. Yes, we want the best solution out there. But more importantly, understanding where your audience is, understanding what they haven't realized yet, understanding the beliefs that are causing problems in their life and making them aware of it are all things that allow you to stand out without having to like niche down so niche and granular that you're in this niche that no one even exists, right? So instead of being a messaging expert, like, oh, I want to stay as a messaging expert, but instead of saying like, oh, I'm a messaging expert for people who want to learn how to walk their dog properly. It's like, what? How many people out there are like wanting to walk their dog properly, and you're going to be a messaging expert for those people? Like, that's weird. That doesn't make you're even if you got 100% of the market, you're still going to have a really crappy business because there's nobody there, right? So I think by default, a lot of people default to, let me niche down. Let me create a unique process. Instead, what I recommend and what I've been noticing is that when we can properly have the right communication, which I'll talk about what that actually is as we get more and more into this episode, it makes people feel heard. It makes people feel understood. It gives people aha moments. So when we look at really great communication, that's going to allow you to stand out. It's what I mentioned already. It's the dot connecting, the perspective shifting, the becoming a better teacher, but it's also making your audience feel understood. It's making them feel validated. It's making them feel like what they're going through is normal. Someone's been through it before, and that's normal in any relationship. Any relationship's going to thrive when you make the person feel accepted for who they are, when you understand what they're going through, you make them feel heard, make them feel understood. They start to feel a deeper connection to you. And connection, I think, is going to be really more important as we move through 2024. And so understanding what connection is, how you want to connect with people, where do we get connection from, all that stuff is going to be really, really important. So again, oversaturation is going to be challenge number one. It has been a challenge for a while. To be honest with you, every year oversaturation is going to be on there. Why? Because more and more people come into the space. So if you think it's competitive today, guess what? Tomorrow is going to be the new day where the new record is of the most amount of people ever. And then the day after that, and the month after that, and the month after that. So today literally probably is the most competitive it's ever been. Tomorrow will be the next day that it's the most competitive. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So obviously my solution for that is just to focus on the way you communicate. It's figuring out how to communicate so uniquely, differently, that it leaves people coming to their own conclusion. This person's different. This person gets it. And hopefully I do that with messaging. Hopefully when you hear me talk about messaging, I'm one of the top 2 or 3 experts you think to turn to when it comes to messaging, or that you recommend. And obviously it's not gonna be like that for everyone, but that's the goal, right? Is to communicate so differently unique that you come to your own conclusion, like this guy's just in his own space. So that's number one. Number 2 is I've heard this more and more on calls. I've heard this more and more from students. I've heard this more and more and more and more, where people are just getting burned by courses. And we've actually heard this a lot on a lot of our sales calls. Like, well, how do I know this is going to work? I've been burned by courses and coaches and all that stuff in the past. Now, there's no way we can fix that. There's no way we can overcome that. And honestly, like when people feel like they got burned from a course, like, are there really crappy courses out there from people looking to do a money grab? Yes. Are there courses out there from people who don't really care? Yes. Are there courses from people who are not very ethical? Yes. Are there courses out there that just don't work? Yes. Are there courses out there that just people regurgitate stuff without actually understanding how to really fix the problem? Yeah, of course. So there's no way to really get over the fact that people are going to get burned by courses. But also you have to understand we can't control people's interpretations. We can't control people's thoughts. We can't control people's interpretations of their experiences. And so like, even in my course, like, does every single person get the results they want? No. Sometimes they get results that aren't what they want. Sometimes they get results that are bigger than what they want. Sometimes people get in and they do half the work and then blame the program, or there are people that get in and do the work and get the results. And sometimes there's people that do the work and the results are slower than others. You just never know. And even for us, we take so much pride in our program. We put a lot of work into our programs. I put a lot of my time and energy in the students, especially in NGM Plus. I'm in there almost every day in the Facebook group answering questions. I'm doing calls with students. Like, I'm really put a lot of energy into it. And, and when I put a lot of my like time and energy and stuff into it, again, even that, I don't have a 100% success rate. I like to think it's higher than everyone else's. But there's going to be this theme, and there already is this theme, where people just get burned by courses and they just live in this reality where courses don't work. They get burned by them. And that is something that I think is going to be a bigger challenge for us. The people that do have great courses, have great solutions, people that care, are going to have to tackle. Like, that is going to be a big objection that we're going to have to learn to deal with, that we're going to have to learn to get over. And you're going to have to learn how to overcome that objection, because I do think it's going to be an objection that is going to arise in 2024. But here's some of the ways that we've kind of overcome it a little bit. Is that what I realized is that when people have that objection, usually it came from people that don't actually know me very well. Like, they may be new to me, or they came in from someone else or whatever. But the people that are listeners of the podcast, the people that have been around for a while, the people that trust me, the people that know me, don't really have that objection. And the conclusion I came with around that is that I actually think if you want to overcome the objection of not like, oh, I'm getting burned by courses and how do I know this won't burn me? Like blah, 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 is that it's not about the course. So I think what a lot of people try to do is they overdo their courses or their programs. Like, okay, I'm just going to create the best freaking thing I possibly can. I'm spending all this time developing it. And it's like, dude, no one's going to know how good the process is until they actually get into it. Nobody's going to know that. And so what do they determine this by? Well, there's two things. Number one is you. So what I've realized is when people get to know me, when people connect with me, when people hear me talk and they come to their own conclusions, wow, this guy's in his own space, the objection of, I got burned by courses, how do I know it's not going to burn me, doesn't even enter into their thinking. It doesn't enter into their mind. And the reason why is because they trust me. And so I think developing more trust, and there's two types of trust. It's the human to human trust. I trust this person because we have shared values. We have shared beliefs. We have shared identities, like that sort of stuff that builds the human to human connection is more important. And I'm going to talk more about that as well. But the connection is going to be really, really important for people to start to trust you. But the second type of trust we need is we also need a trust in our ability to solve the problem. So when we truly understand people's problems, when we truly understand what they're going through, we truly understand what they have tried and what they're doing to try to fix the problem and what they've done to cause the problem, and we talk about it, we communicate about it, they start to feel heard, understood. And when someone trusts you as a human to human, they trust your ability to fix the problem, which means you demonstrate a good understanding of the problem and why it exists, and you validate their experience and make them feel heard. The objection of, I've been burned by courses, how do I know this is going to burn me, doesn't really come up. And that was one of the realizations I had is like, wow, a lot of these people who have been using that objection on sales calls just don't know us. They haven't been around. They aren't listeners of the podcast. They're more of like, it's usually like the colder leads, not the warmer leads. And so that then begs the question, well, how do we start to develop that more inside of our marketing, more inside of our webinars? And so what we've done is I just incorporate things like more story in the sales presentations. I do more podcasts like this that include about things around my life, my values. I try to really be really intentional with how I communicate my messaging to give you mind-blowing moments, dot connecting moments. So I really want to take more, and this is something I can probably be better with, is creating more connection with the audience as well. Validate them more, validate their experience, validate what they're trying, what they're doing, and developing and demonstrating a high understanding of them, who they are, that it's safe here, and an understanding of what they've been going through. And, this is something that I've been really working on over the past year, trying to develop, not just so I can overcome that objection. This is all stuff we should be doing anyways, but I want to create an experience. I want to create an environment where people are like, I found my place, I found my person, I found my space. Person just totally gets me. And I'm going to give a scenario here. And if you've been a listener for a while, you've probably heard this before. If you're a member, like a student of ours, you've definitely heard this before. However, I'm going to say it again. So I want you to imagine you have a stomach pain and it lasts from 7:30 at night to 8:30 at night. It's been going on for 2 weeks. You have no idea what it is. It's totally weird, totally bizarre, right? You go to 9 doctors and 9 doctors tell you, I have no idea what's wrong with you. You're probably going to feel sad, depressed, like there's no end in sight. You're going to feel hopeless. You're just not going to feel great, right? It's just not going to feel awesome. And you have to understand that's where your audience is at right now, because they have a problem and no one's been able to fix it. So that's kind of how they feel, right? And anytime you guys go through a hard time and it just feels like no one gets you, understands you, no one understands what you're going through, there doesn't seem like there's a solution. You're going to be like, WTF, man, like how am I going to get out of this? But then all of a sudden you go to the 10th doctor, and the 10th doctor takes one look at you, doesn't even say any words, right? Just takes one look. You walk through the door and they go, let Let me guess, stomach pain at 7:30 at night ends at 8:30 at night. Am I right? Been maybe about a week or two, about 2 weeks probably. You're gonna be like, oh my God, yes, doctor, that's exactly what I have. You're gonna feel heard. You're gonna feel understood. You're gonna feel like there's an end in sight. Now, you're gonna feel really safe with that doctor. You're gonna be like, this doctor gets it. This doctor understands me. This doctor knows exactly what I'm dealing with. But what's really unique and special about this is that the doctor just created a huge amount of demand and trust in their ability to solve the problem. Because if that doctor walked out and said, oh yeah, you got stomach loop, and says, well, good luck with that. Take care. What are you going to do? You're going to chase that doctor down and be like, doctor, how do I fix this? What's the solution? You're literally going to chase them down, even though they never said they had a solution. They never told you where their degrees were, their certifications were at. They never showed you any case studies or testimonials. They never did any of that. They just showed a very accurate and specific description of what you're dealing with, your symptoms, your problems. They made you feel heard, validated, understood. You're not going to sit there and go like, well, I've been burned by doctors in the past, so how do I know you're going to solve this for me? You're going to feel so relieved that someone finally gets it that you're just going to want to work with them. And that's what I'm talking about, is like being very specific and intentional with your messaging so that people feel understood. You build better connection, you create more demand, just let people into your ecosystem and be intentional with it allows for all of that to happen. And then what we start to notice is the people that are in that ecosystem, they start to use that objection less and less and less. But I think it's going to be more and more important because since there's more competition, since there's going to be more oversaturation, there's going to be more crappy courses with not great teachers, and people are going to feel more burned than ever. So I think that's going to be more important in 2024 because as we went through the first two, those two things kind of go hand in hand, right? Oversaturation and then people getting burned by courses because now there's more courses and people with crappy courses and stuff like that. Okay. Number 3 is that I think ad costs are going to go up. We've kind of already been experiencing it a little bit, not terribly, but it's there. But I do think because of oversaturation and speed to be able to test and to try things that ads gives you, people are just going to be jumping on it more. And Facebook literally, like I'm just going to use Facebook in particular, it literally is a supply and demand sort of algorithm. The more people that are running ads to the same market as you, the higher the cost is going to be. Now, with that being said, what we have found, very interestingly enough, is that when we run ads, I always try to run 5 to 10 ads at the same time. And what we find is usually a lot of ads will hover at like the average cost per lead. So for me, an average cost per lead is like $13 to $16, right? And I'll upload 10 ads, like a couple of them will be in the 20s and we just turn those off. And the rest will be between like $13, $16. And then we just kind of leave those ones on. But what we've noticed is there is something I call home run ads, where every once in a while you'll find an ad that just does exceptionally well. Like it just converts at $6 when everything else is at $13. And so to overcome the ad cost going up is I want you guys to start thinking through like, how do I discover these home run ads? And the hard part about it is you just never really know. Like we have some formulas and frameworks we give to our NGM Plus students and ideas and creatives that have worked for us. And they usually do pretty good at hitting home run ads. But really at the end of the day, you just never know. And so even when I work with my one-on-one clients, like this, I remember in September, we had a one-on-one client we're working with, we're running her ad. And I just got lucky and like, bam, the first ad I hit was a home run. It got like half the cost per lead that they were used to. And so, you know, when you get half the cost per lead, you basically doubled the opt-ins you get for the same budget. So it was unbelievable. Then there was another client who I was able to get a couple ads at the same of what they were on the low end of their average, but we didn't have enough time to really find the home run ad. And sometimes you never find the home run ad. But what we found from our home run ads is there's a couple commonalities. Number one, the relevancy is super high, which means the copy, the creative, the headline is very relevant to what people are going through and what they want. The more relevant you are to their specific situation, their specific feelings, their specific actions they're doing to try to fix it, their specific pain, the more likely they are to opt in. And so when people read that and they get the, oh my God, that's me effect going on, or the head nod effect, like, yep, that's what I got. Yep, that's me. The more likely they are to opt in. And so what we always do is we just pay attention to our content. We pay attention to our messaging, what's working, what's performing the best. And then we start to integrate that into our ads. But sometimes what's working in your content, when you integrate it into your ad, sometimes it doesn't result in a home run ad. So you maybe change the language around, change the problems around, change whatever around. But relevancy, relatability, the understanding of problems and why the problems exist usually are things we have in common with our home run ads. So again, it's like relevancy, the problem that people are understanding, and relatability. So it's always things like, hey, if you are this identity, which identity is a way to relate to people, it makes it more relevant to them. So if you're a course creator or a stay-at-home mom or a police officer, or whatever it may be, right? Someone's identity is one thing that you can start to do. But then go into a specific problem, which sometimes are hard to find. So what is the specific problem they're dealing with? So, hey, course creators, have you done 3 launches in 2023? And none of them really hit the results that you want, even though you're following every single process that some of the courses you've bought. There's a reason why. And now what happens, even in that first line, people go like, oh my God, it's exactly what I'm doing. And then I can go to the next thing, like to their mistakes. On those webinars, I'm willing to bet that 70%, 60 to 70% of the webinar is pure teaching, just information, because you want to give out your best information and hopefully people will buy. Now people go like, oh my God, that's exactly what I did. It feels like they're not, it may be called out, but it feels like someone's describing what they're going through. And then the next line might make them feel heard, right? The next line might be something like, look, I understand how frustrating it is to be able to know you can help people and not have people pay attention. You're giving your best stuff out. It's information you know can help, but it's just not landing with people. I get that. It's depressing. It's you just want to help people and make money, you know? So now I make them feel heard and understood. And I'm starting to incorporate a lot of the things that we've already talked about. So that sort of stuff allows for these home run ads to really sort of take off. So number 3 is I think we're going to see an increase in ad spend or cost per lead just across the board. Again, I don't know if that will happen or not, but it's something that I'm taking into consideration for sure. There's also things you can do, which I haven't played around with too much yet. I want to in 2024. But instead of having people register for free events, you can have people register for paid events. So that offsets the cost of ads. After they register for something free, you can have a one-click upsell, or you can have some sort of like low ticket upsell after they opt in to offset cost. You can try selling low ticket offers that people just buy right then and there, $5-10 with a series of upsells. And then you take all those buyers and have them register for your webinar. So there's a lot of things we can do if your ad costs are getting crazy. So if your ad costs get crazy, just know there's like incorporating paid options and small low ticket offers in with your ads can help offset that cost as well. All right. Number 4 is I think experience over education is going to become more important in 2024. And here's what I mean is, you know, if I got cancer, knock on wood, I don't, but let's just pretend I did. And I have the option of going to someone who has studied cancer for 10 years. We'll just call it 15 years, multiple degrees, read all these books, all these studies, has studied it for 14 years, 15 years. Or I have the option of going with a doctor who has literally healed people from cancer for 15 years. Like who do you want to go with? Probably the one with the experience, right? Now, the reason why the experience is more important than education is because you just understand it better. And we all know this. Like when you go and study something, you don't actually know it until you do it. And there's going to be mistakes that happen. There's going to be things that come up. There's going to be little nuances that you're going to be aware of that other people just won't. Like when it comes to messaging, we've helped so many people. Like I understand like what are some of the fears that are going to happen? Where are the blocks at? What are the ways to overcome it? You know, like we've worked with so many different students in so many different niches that I also know what works in certain niches and what doesn't. For example, like we had a parenting coach come into our program. And by the time she left, was doing $50,000 months on the way to $100,000 months. Now because I have that experience working with her, I understand some of the nuances of the parenting industry. I have some ideas of what worked and what didn't work. I obviously, when it comes to helping people who are essentially competitors, even though I know exactly what specifically worked for her, if I gave that to someone else, it won't specifically work for them either, because it's a different individual, it's a different offer with a different audience, even though it is both parents, right? But I know a lot of what doesn't work, and I know a lot of some of the triggers that do work. And so because I have so much experience with people in so many different industries, it allows me to help people get results faster. It allows me to understand where the mistakes are, allows me to be a better teacher, it just allows me to give a better experience and better results for my students. And I continue to learn every single day to become that better teacher, to be able to learn those little nuances, to be able to even market more. So I know how to market better. I just have a deeper understanding because I have more experience. However, I also know that there are some of you going like, well, Brandon, I don't have the experience yet. I just have my certification. I just got my coaching degree or my coaching certification, or I just graduated from this or that. And I want to be really upfront. I'm in no way telling you not to get education. Like, you need the education. You got to learn what you're doing, right? But we don't know it until we do it. And so some of you might be sitting there going like, well, I have the information, I just haven't worked with people yet. And that's part of the battle. Everyone has to go through that. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Like, you can obviously just work for free, right? Just work for free until you get the case studies and testimonials. You can try like lower ticket things just to get people in the doors and get some more of that experience. You can look at your own past experience. So if you are helping people overcome a problem that you've overcome yourself, use your experience. Like, what were you doing? What were you going through? What were you feeling? How did you overcome it? Bring that into your messaging, bring that into your marketing, bring that into your business. So again, there's no, I think people are like, well, if I don't have the experience, like, what am I supposed to do, Brandon? It's like, well, I hate to say it, there's no like easy button to push to get the experience. You just got to put in the reps. You just got to put in the work, like over the last 4 years, I probably worked with, 2,000 students on messaging. So I just understand it on a level that people who haven't worked with 2,000 students don't have. And maybe they understand things that I don't because they've worked with different types of people or something like that. Right. So everyone has their unique knowledge and experience, which allows you to be the teacher who you become. But I do know that if you're the person who's focusing on getting more certifications so that you can improve your business, probably better to focus more on experience. That's what I would do if I were in your shoes. So again, this is in no way to say like you're screwed if you don't have the experience, because you're not. It just means get the experience, like have a focus on experience over education if you feel you have enough education to get a result. And by the way, a result doesn't mean getting someone from A to Z. It could be just getting them from A to B, right? And then as you grow and as you learn and as you become better, you can now create another offer that takes them from A to C and then A to D and then A to whatever, over and over and over again. And, that's kind of what I do. We look at business development, we look at team building, we look at strategy. I never offered those before. We look at evergreen, right? We literally teach how to evergreen your high ticket offers. I couldn't have taught that a year ago. I didn't know it a year ago. But now that I do, it's like, great. Now I understand it. I also understand launches. I understand messaging. I can teach all of this stuff now. So instead of taking people from A to C, which was, let's just call it messaging, I can now take people from A to Z because I understand how to build a successful team. I understand how to do evergreen. I now understand how to do launches. I understand how to build a sales team. I understand all of these things because of my experience. And it allows me to do more and more if I want to, right? So experience over education. And then the last and final thing here that we have to understand, again, it's kind of what I led with. I hate that this is a thing. I don't enjoy it. But the world is chaotic. It was chaotic in 2023. Ever since COVID, I've just heard I think people are still dealing with a lot of the stuff that happened in COVID, and it caused a lot of change, and, people don't do well with change, and it is chaotic. There is a lot of chaos. I think it will lead to good stuff. I think it's a part of our evolution on this planet. I think it's waking a lot of people up to a lot of different things. And I think that will help the evolution of the planet for sure. It sucks going through it. Trust me, I get it. I ripped my entire family from California and brought them to Arizona. It has not been smooth. It was not a fun transition. California was where we lived our entire life, but it's just not the same California that my wife and I grew up in, and just wasn't the right place for us anymore. And so there's a lot of change like that, right? Like I was even talking to Matt today. I kind of miss having an office. I kind of miss like the camaraderie. There was just so much creativity happening when we would have meetings in person, film content in person. And it's just, now the team's virtual all over the country. And that has a lot of good things, but it also has a lot of challenges with it as well. And so there's just a lot of change happening on the planet. And there's a lot of chaos happening on the planet. I don't think, I would just be very careful and mindful of what news channels you're listening to or Instagram things you're following and all of that stuff. Because if you follow the wrong ones, you're just going to live in that chaos all the time. Again, that's my own just personal advice if you want it, but we do have to take that into account as the world's going to get more chaotic. And when things get more chaotic, people want to feel safe. And the way in which we make people feel safe is we make them feel heard, we make them feel validated, and we build more connection. We also become more flexible. So this means, if you're sitting there and you're like wanting to do a high ticket offer and it's just not working and it's this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then be flexible to changing things. Like maybe because inflation is crazy, like high ticket just isn't working anymore for you, and a low ticket is better. Now, you have to determine when to make that shift, because I also believe that if something's not working, it doesn't mean you just jump ship and move off to something else, but be flexible. Like maybe there's something you're not seeing with the high ticket offer or the high ticket, whatever, or maybe it is time to go to lower ticket. I don't know, but just the idea of being flexible, I think is going to be really important, because the world can change in a jiffy, right? A new president can change a lot. It can change the way how people buy. The inflation can, again, change the way how people buy. It can change people's buying behavior. And so we have to be really flexible in chaos to be able to thrive. But again, more importantly, I think it just comes down to being more authentic in 2024, incorporating more of yourself. One of my friends, Catherine Sinkina, has done a great job with that on her Instagram, Manifestation Babe. For a really long time, people just really, really connect with her. She just talks about who she is, she incorporates that. And I will say within our brand on Instagram, it's not something we've done the best job of, but I try to do it here on the podcast more, because this is my main content hub, my main content source, but also just connection. So like incorporating more of your values, more of your beliefs, more of your identities, I think is really important. But also the idea of validating your audience and making them feel heard is really important. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel like they're in the right place. It just does so much for your brand. It does so much for your marketing. So when you make people feel heard and you make them feel validated, it builds more relevancy in your brand. So if you're writing an ad and you're like, how do I make my audience feel heard? If you nail it, what happens is that person reads that and they go, that's relevant to me. I feel heard. And I'll never forget the day when I was in the kitchen and my wife was on Instagram and she literally said, like, this person makes me feel so heard. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she goes, yeah, she just like went through, and it was the holistic psychologist. And she's like, this is exactly what I deal with as an adult. And this is what my childhood looked like. She just nailed it to a T. I feel so heard right now. Like no one's ever explained that to me. And bam, instant connection was formed. She like still to this day follows and loves the holistic psychologist and her content. But that's what I'm talking about, is like, I think we get so trapped into this idea that we just need to teach and educate and prove how smart we are. But instead of proving how smart you are through delivering information, prove how smart you are by explaining why things are happening in people's lives that they don't understand. Prove how smart you are by describing what they're going through. Prove how smart you are by making them aware of, hey, you're having this problem and you're making this because you're making this mistake. If you can master that, which again, all comes down to messaging, all comes down to the way you communicate. This is stuff we work with you on inside of NGM Plus and NGM. This is all the stuff that I think is going to be more important in 2024. And again, this isn't me saying like, you need to, like, messaging is going to be your savior in 2024. No, not at all. But what I'm saying is when we look at the psychology of how humans work, everyone wants to feel safe. Everyone wants to be themselves. Everyone wants to feel heard. Everyone wants to be validated. Everyone wants to trust that there is a solution to their problem. That's just basic human nature. And the way in which we teach messaging allows for you to discover what that is. Now, it's not an easy journey. It's a trial and error journey. It taps into your experience. But when you can do it, I do think it will help with a lot of the issues that are possibly going to come up in 2024. So just to recap, the big challenges in 2024 will be oversaturation. It'll be getting, I think there's going to be more people that are living in a reality where they feel like they're burned by courses. Number 3, I think there's a possibility that ad costs can go up. Number 4 is, I think, getting more and more education and ignoring experience is going to be a challenge for you, making more sales and having a better program and getting people results. And that's always been a thing anyways. And then number 5 is, I hope it's not true, but I do think that the world will be a little bit more chaotic, especially as we change presidents, as inflation hopefully doesn't, I don't know, if inflation increases, it might get a little bit more chaotic, but I'm hoping that the world does not get more chaotic, but it probably will be a little bit more, especially with the shifting of, the president and the way the housing market is, inflation rates, interest rates, inflation, all that stuff. So again, it's not to, hopefully today was very insightful, not to instill fear in you guys, not to do any of that stuff, but just to be like, well, let's just put it this way. Even if my predictions, challenges are not right, let's say they're all wrong, the advice on how I told you to get over it will still apply and help your brand and help you grow, whether these things happen or not. So again, it's good to be aware of it, but if you actually listen to the solution I gave to each one of those, it boils down to just having great messaging, a great understanding of who you're working with, and using messaging and marketing that is authentic, builds connection. Yes, it still delivers information and teaches, but think of a TED Talk versus an encyclopedia. TED Talks make people feel heard. It's engaging. They feel validated. They're like, oh my gosh, that's why something is existing. And bam, millions and millions of views. Whereas like encyclopedias, they're just boring. No one really reads them, wants to read them or listen to them. So with that being said, I do want to tell you guys to get ready because the podcast is going to be fire in the next month or two. We do have in March a free training coming out, diving deeper into all of this stuff. So we do this once a year. It's our Master Your Messaging 3-day live event. It's be about an hour or two each day for 3 days. That will be happening in March. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming up for you guys. Pay attention to the podcast, join our email list, follow us on Instagram, and we will send notifications for all that stuff coming out. So I'm looking forward to it. If you have not done so already, leave us a review on iTunes. I love reading those reviews, and I will see you guys all next week. Take care. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.